We can use the heart rate power output relationship to do a physiological test to determine someone's aerobic capacity. So in exercise physiology, we want to know how big someone's aerobic capacity is, because that can determine how well they can perform different types of exercise and what intensities and so on. And then that can be used for prescription of exercise, which you guys will eventually learn in the unit EXSC198, exercise testing and prescription. So this is one of the basic tests to determine someone's aerobic capacity, and using heart rate. So you just need a heart rate monitor and have a person ride on a bike, or it could be a treadmill, a running treadmill. So instead of power output, you could have running speed and plot the heart rate against the increasing power output or running speed. So in this case, this is the same test I've done before, which is the 150 watt increment test up to 300 watts. And this is my heart rate measured here and plotted against that power output. This is the trend line, and this is the equation of that trend line. And using this data, we can extrapolate this curve out to my maximum heart rate, and also to a heart rate of 170, which is going to be here. So this is my 170 beat point here, and if we put a line across, this is my heart rate max, just under 190 beats per minute, and we can extrapolate this curve out to my maximum, as well as to what at my heart rate of 170. If we drop from that 170 point straight down to here, so at this point you're looking at around 375 watts. So if I kept on exercising up to my 170 beats, I should be putting out around 175 beats per minute. Now if we keep going to this next axis, so there are two axes on this curve. This is for VO2 in litres per minute, and it's going to be around 5.2, 5.3 litres per minute. So the reason we've got this axis here is that most people tend to use the same amount of oxygen for the same power. Doesn't matter whether you're a Tour de France winner or just a weekend hacker, or you've never ridden a bike, your oxygen consumption is going to be roughly the same, because with cycling it's mostly concentric muscle contractions, and there isn't really a lot of difference in terms of efficiency of pedaling a bike between individuals, whether you're a man, woman, child, well-trained elite athlete or not. It's roughly going to be the same. So therefore we can have this scale across here. So that's my physical work capacity at 170 beats. Now we can work out what the heart rate, at the heart rate max, what my predicted VO2 max, because at VO2 max we've got a maximum heart rate, okay, which is here. So my max VO2 max predicted, so this is may not be my maximum, but it's going to be pretty close. So it's going to be around 5.9 litres per minute or so is my predicted VO2 max at this maximum heart rate. So therefore I can work out the maximum amount of oxygen I'm consuming in exercise without actually doing a full VO2 max test. I can just do what's known as a sub-max test, which is below my maximum. So I just need a few data points to get a line, extrapolate it out, and then I can calculate my VO2 max. So this test is good. There's quite a few pros. It's the most often conducted test in exercise physiology, and it's easy to do. All you need, it's pretty cheap. You can do it on any population, elderly, athletes, children, men and women. It all works. It's cheap because all you need is just one watch, or you can just need a watch and palpitate with your fingers on the person's wrist to work out what their heart rate is. It's submaximal, okay, so they're not don't have to go to VO2 max or do a maximal test to get to their heart rate up to maximum. And so there's relatively little physiological stress. And it has very good repeatability. So you can do it you can do it every day and you should get the same result. Some of the cons is that it relies on knowing heart rate max, and that is problematic because heart rate max, there could be, in predicting heart rate max, there is some variability in that. And so that is going to be shown out in your peak VO2 max scores. So there's going to be an error there. So it uses a bike, but you can use a treadmill. And there are external influences on heart rate. So caffeine, alcohol, beta blockers, temperature, stress, these all affect heart rate. And so that will affect the result because it will change the slope of the curve and the data that is extrapolated from that curve. And there's an assumption that the power heart rate is linear. Generally it is, but in some individuals it may not be. So at the higher power outputs, the heart rate may drop off a bit, not be as straight, and so there might be a little bit of a curve in there. So VO2 in absolute terms is measured in litres per minute. So that's how many litres of oxygen you're taking into your body and consuming while exercising, for example, on an exercise bike. Now, as I've said before, the VO2 at any age, gender, state of training for a submaximal power output is the same for everyone. Whereas heart rate can be quite different between individuals, depending on the fitness of the individual and their max heart rate. So, for example, Lance Armstrong, famous or infamous cyclist, Tour de France winner, or not Tour de France winner, depending on how you view it. If he's pedaling at 100 watts, his VO2 is approximately 1.5 litres per minute. Now, if we get this, an untrained person such as Tim, his VO2 at 100 watts is 1.5 litres per minute, same as Lance Armstrong at 100 watts. 59-year-old lady, non-cyclist, VO2 at 100 watts, around 1.5 litres per minute, same as the others. ACU exercise science student, VO2 is at 100 watts is approximately 1.5 litres per minute. So what that says is that VO2 in cycling at least is the same for all power outputs for most people. And so, in other words, their efficiency at pedaling at 100 watts is the same. They're using the same amount of oxygen. Same with if they're pedaling at 200 or 300 watts, it's going to be the same. On this curve, we've got the VO2 power relationship going up here. Now, as you can see, I've pulled out a whole lot of data from different studies where they've measured 16 women, average age 63. We've got 13 males, average age 61. Then we've got more older males, 61. Then we've got 40-year-olds, 30-year-olds. Here's Dr. Phil. This is Lance Armstrong at his best. And these all come from published journal articles. And notice how they're all on the same line, this same linear line. The only difference is that the older subjects tend to be down this end. You know, their VO2 max is quite low, around a litre per minute. And then you've got Lance Armstrong, athlete, up here, well over 6 litres at 500 watts, way up here. So pretty well everyone fits on this line somewhere. And that means that they've all got roughly the same efficiency when pedaling a bike. Now for running, it's going to be different. This curve will move up and down depending on the runner, because running economy does vary a lot. But for cycling, at least, it's roughly the same. So here we have three curves. We've got the VO2 power relationship. Okay, it's a linear relationship, and then we have this little bit of a plateau at the top. And again, here's VO2 to time at different power outputs, and notice how it takes a bit of time to get to steady state, and then we have this plateau. And there's 100 watts. Again, plateau 125, 200 watts. So along here is those power outputs. Eventually we get to a point where the VO2 just doesn't increase. We can still increase the power, but there's no increase in VO2. And that's the point where the person reaches their VO2 max. We can increase the power, but they've reached the maximum amount of oxygen that they consume. Here we have heart rate, same, where we have an increase in heart rate, a linear increase with the increasing power. Eventually we reach heart rate max right here, and we still increase the power, but the heart rate max, they won't increase. That heart rate max is biologically set. We can't change it. It is what it is for that particular person. And then this graph here, we've got heart rate versus VO2, and again, it's this linear relationship between heart rate and VO2. So to get the oxygen to the muscle, we need the heart rate to increase in order to get increasing VO2 to the muscle, and that's what that graph is showing. So this is the oxygen delivery side, the oxygen transport side, the heart delivering the blood which carries the oxygen to the muscle, and here is the VO2 side. This is the oxygen consumption side.